Okay, I want you to close your eyes. Are they closed? Okay, good. I want you to think about the last time you competed for real. Not a pickup game, not a workout. Last time you put on a uniform and you stepped on the field or the court or the track or the pool deck or whatever that meant for you, and it actually meant something. Maybe it was high school or college or semi pro. Maybe you did the damn thing and you went all the way. At some point, for all of us, it ended. And you probably didn't even realize it ended. You weren't standing there on the field, twiddling your thumbs, taking off your jersey, thinking, okay, this is it. This is the last time. You just finished. And life moved on. And slowly, little by little, you started to notice your coaches, your teammates, your trainers gone. You had no schedule telling you where to be and when to be there. Nobody telling you what to do with your body and your brain and your time. Just open. And if you're anything like me, that was a whole lot harder than you expected. Because it's not just the sport that ends, it's the thing you've been doing your whole life that ends too. It's the identity you've been carrying since you were a kid. Oh, yeah, I play soccer. Everything you've worked for, everything you've built your life around, it just stops. And it's not just that it stops, it's that nobody hands you a playbook for what comes next. That is what this show is all about. I'm Ryan Dunn. I played college soccer at Boston College. And I spent the last decade plus trying to figure out what to do with the person that sports and being an athlete made me. This is Halftime Heroes. Okay, so you're probably wondering why I have any right to be sitting here awkwardly talking into a camera, trying to read a teleprompter in a makeshift studio in my living room of my tiny Boston apartment while the rest of my family sleeps. I'm trying to explain to you why I'm the right guy to be hosting this show. Tell you right now, I do not have all the answers, and maybe I'm not the perfect guy to be here, but I'm going to give you my story, and this is the best that I've got. So, I grew up in coastal New Hampshire. I'm the oldest of three boys, full on sports obsessed household. Every single hour of my day was accounted for, and most of them were sports. Every summer was spent playing wiffle ball or some other made up game in the backyard. Every Saturday morning of my childhood was spent with Sports Center on a loop trying to catch, I don't know, the fourth, fifth, sixth, top 10 plays of the day, usually somewhere around the 53 mark of the hour. I never really partied in high school. I just pretty much simply didn't have the time. I think I was most often too busy traveling to Des Moines, Iowa, or small town USA, Kansas at what I like to call the Dead President's Memorial Invitational Showcase, something like that. My whole life was aimed at some arbitrary goal that I set some point in my early teens. Don't know when I said it, don't know how I said it, but I said it, and that was playing college soccer. Crazy thing is, it worked. I was a recruited walk-on at Boston College. I played well enough in my first couple of years to get put on scholarship. I became a captain of a top 10 team. It was more than teenage me could have ever in a million years imagined. A lot of ways I was living the dream. And then, just like that, it was over. And I thought I'd be fine. I think a small, teeny, tiny, delusional part of me thought I could maybe go pro. Then the more reasonable, rational part of me thought, well, I'm driven, I'm disciplined, I've got a degree from a good school, I'll figure it out. But what I don't think I realized is that sports have been doing something for me that I just couldn't do for myself and still maybe haven't figured out for myself. It was giving me a North Star. It was giving me a thing to obsess over, a reason for being. It was the reason I was the first one in and the last one out every day. And without it, I was just a guy with a lot of energy and nowhere to put it. So I started experimenting. I started a sports blog in college. It was basically a Barstool ripoff with my roommate. Then I got a job at an ad agency in Boston and I started what I called the Digital Daily Dose. It was part digital industry update, part glimpse into the dating life of a 23-year-old man child. I published it every day for 2.5 years. Pretty good. Then, kind of out of nowhere, I just straight up fled the country and started a travel blog. I spent 12 months living in a different country every month. Colombia, Croatia, Argentina, Morocco. For a 26-year-old kid, it was pretty awesome. But I look back on it and it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, I got to think a big part of that decision was probably me running away from something at home, that feeling of I wasn't doing the thing I was supposed to be doing. So after my lap around the globe, I came back and almost immediately decided that the office thing wasn't for me. So quit my job and I moved right back into my parents' house in New Hampshire. I was coaching high school basketball and I was trying to start a travel company from their basement, which if you've ever tried to run a travel brand without any money to travel and living in your childhood bedroom, it went about as well as you can imagine. Another failed experiment. I got back on my feet. I met my now wife. I had a kid. I've got a beautiful son at home. And at some point in the mix there, I started a podcast called Destination Different, where I interviewed creators, athletes, entrepreneurs about how they were building these unconventional careers. It was something I knew I wanted. 2.5 years, 127 episodes. I got a chance to meet some insanely talented people who have gone on to build unbelievably successful projects. It was amazing, but it was also all over the place. And I was doing it alone and it didn't seem to be going anywhere. So I got burned out and I did what I've always done. I stopped. 2.5 years of work. Again, 127 episodes. Bye bye. After that, I sat on the next idea for way too long, telling myself I'd get to it, that I just had to figure out the strategy. It was all bullshit, all procrastination. I'm more into the decade into this now. At this point, I know who I am. I know what I am. It's all a lie you tell yourself. Every single project I've started, I've treated it like a first practice. I get all excited. I show up all giddy. I've got my new gear. It's a new season. Rip through the drills and I put in the work. But you hear this pattern, you see this story. I've never stayed with one thing long enough to truly go pro, to make the side thing become the real thing. I know I've always had the discipline of an athlete. I know I've always had that in me. I just don't know if I've found the right sport yet. So starting this year, 2026, I've decided to actually commit for the first time, finally. No more half reps, no more 2.5 years and see you later. This, what you're watching right now, Halftime Heroes, this is the thing. I was going through old notebooks the other day and I found something I wrote about the skills that made me a great athlete. Discipline, consistency, coachability, the ability to get knocked down and keep going, the obsession with getting a little bit better every day. Think about those and you think those are the exact same skills that make a great creator, a great entrepreneur, a great founder. And I know I can do all of those things. Yeah, I'm a 34-year-old man with a baby and a day job and a sore back now. The game, it changes. I get that. But the skills that you need to make it work, those don't change. And in my opinion, I don't think anybody is packaging up that story, that mission in a big enough way. There is just an insane amount of sports content out there that just overwhelming. But the story of what athletes are building outside of sports, the creativity, the business savvy, I don't think that's being told in a way that it deserves to be told. And that is what Halftime Heroes is. But I recognize it's also not enough just to tell those stories. I realize that sports are supposed to be fun. Sports for me were the best. They're so fun. And this Halftime Heroes, it has to be fun. I want to build this thing like it's an actual sports team. I think about the format of the show. I'm talking player announcements, halftime show, commentator spoofs, jerseys, sponsors, jerseys, gear, the whole thing, because that's the only world I know. And if you're a former athlete or even just a sports fan, I got to think that's probably how you think too. So, my goal with this is pretty simple. I want to build a place that helps former athletes find their next obsession. That could be starting a business, building a creative brand, launching a content project. I want it to be a place where that athlete mentality doesn't just die, it becomes our edge for building what's next. And at the same time, I'm also going to be real with you. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm not doing this as somebody who has it all figured out, who's this big time expert who's telling you how it is. I'm sharing this as I'm trying to figure it out. This is all happening for me in real time with a full time job and a family. And I'm sure a lot of the same self doubt and demons that you're fighting too. I recorded my first podcast episode almost 8 years ago, sitting alone on the floor of my apartment closet. Every project I've ever done, I've gone at it all by myself. I want this one to be different. I need this one to be different. I've always loved playing team sports. I've always loved leading a team. And I want halftime heroes. I want this to actually feel like a team. So if any of this is speaking to you, if you're a former athlete who has been sitting on an idea, if you're building something right now and doing it alone, if you know somebody whose story deserves to be on this show, if you deserve to be on this show, please, 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 please reach out. DM me, send me an email, a carrier pigeon, whatever it takes. I want to hear from you. This isn't going to be another 2.5 year project that I shut down when it gets hard. It can't be. It cannot be. I'm trying to play the long game with this. I'm talking 30, 40, 50 years long. I want something that lives beyond me. And it starts right here. It's only halftime. Let's chip away.